Welcome to part 2 of the Idea to $1,000 ARR app building series. You are about to watch a live stream that I did exclusively for Dreams into Apps Accelerator members. This is part 2. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I'll leave a link in the description to watch part 1. We're about to jump into part 2 right now. So to start this video, I'm going to assume that you already have a product requirements document and you've watched the previous video on how I created my product requirements document. So essentially what I have here, y'all, is I have a list of features. So let's go through them, right? One, I have a daily challenge prompt. So as a sales rep every day, I want the sales rep to open the app and I want them to see a daily challenge, like sell me this pen, or hey, you're selling, a vehicle loan and the prospect says they need to talk to their wife, right? These are just like very basic sales scenario questions. I want the sales rep to open their phone every day and see a sales situation, and then they're given instructions to role play the sales situation. Then there's a button for actually like sending the submission. We'll figure out how that works in a bit. I want the sales rep to be rewarded for completing a daily streak. So I'm going to keep track of how many days in a row the sales rep comes to Closer Academy and completes their kind of challenge for the day. We might do motivation messages. This was something that the AI kind of recommended to me. We might not. It doesn't seem like a need. It seems like a nice to have. Challenge submission and feedback. So submission, automated feedback on submissions using OpenAI API. That's absolutely what we're going to do because this is an AI-driven experience. I'm initially going to plan that we're going to use voice. So like the situation could be sell me this pen, and the sales rep could literally in the speaker of the phone say, this pen is, world class. It can write anything and it will help you close $1,000 of, revenue per day using this pen. I'm just making up some stuff. But like, we want the voice to be inputted into OpenAI. We're going to train an OpenAI assistant based on some documentation. Like we'll feed it some Alex Hormozy books. We'll feed it some Jeremy Miner books. We'll feed it, resources that are trained on, sales gurus out there on the internet, right? And even stuff that maybe we can train on with our own kind of resources. Cool. So we'll do that. Then we'll have a history tab where we have a list of previous challenges. We'll have a profile tab where a sales rep can kind of list out who they are. And then maybe in the future, we could even do like a leaderboard, in-app messaging. I'm even thinking in the future, we could have a community tab where like sales reps can like complete challenges, and then like businesses and companies could come to the Closer Academy and hire sales reps. That could be pretty cool. There's so many things that we could do, but I don't want to get into like the whole marketplace space, and I don't want to try to build two businesses at once. And that's what a lot of our builders end up trying to do when they first join Dreams into Apps. Notice how I'm just trying to solve one problem. I'm just trying to get sales reps onto the app and give them a valuable tool to become better sales reps. And over time, as my business evolves, potentially, I could try other plays for, expanding revenue, introducing other business lines, like I said, like recruiting. I could even sell this app potentially to like a sales recruiting firm. I'm not sure. There's so many different opportunities here, but I'm not going to try to do too much. I'm just going to try to build a really good app that somebody can onboard into and complete a sales challenge. You're going to notice throughout this series, I'm not optimizing for looks, not optimizing for conversion rate or anything right now. I'm literally just trying to prove a hypothesis. Like, does a sales rep want to get better every day? Will they use an AI-powered tool to help them navigate, tough objections and improve their objection handling skills using an app? That's kind of a long-winded hypothesis, but I'm forming a hypothesis right now. I want to know if this is a product that aspiring sales reps or even non-aspiring sales reps, like sales reps that are already in companies, are they going to use this? We will form a more like quantitative hypothesis later, but for now, like I have conviction, and at the end of the day, all of you have to have like emotional conviction before you can try to go get like data-driven conviction. I am convicted that, if that's the right way of using that word, I have strong belief that there are sales reps out there who could use such app and become a better sales rep. So cool. We have two user types. We're going to have one is the sales rep, and then one is the admin. So the sales rep is my user who's going to complete the challenges, and my admin is going to be the person who manages the content for the daily challenge. If you have any questions or comments, like as I work through this, definitely drop it in the chat. Would love to get your advice, and we can all build this app together, essentially. I asked ChatGPT to start kind of planning my objects and entities, because your objects and entities are essentially like the data objects that are going to get sent to the database, right? So like we need to plan out the data flow as well. Because if we can plan out the data flow, then we will know kind of how to design our app and what input fields we need and what type of data is going to be moving around. So I'm a big believer, and you guys all know this if you're in Dreams into apps. I'm a big believer in like planning your app first, separating your nice to haves from your wants, and your needs, and then planning the database. That's why they come in that order inside of Dreams into apps. So I try to get out ahead of that. Sometimes it bites me in the ass, but normally it's fine. So one, I got user ID, username, email, profile, picture, and street count. That's good. Relationships. Users have many challenge submissions. That's good. Challenge. A challenge has a challenge ID, a description, and a date. That's the definition of it. It belongs to many users. All this was AI generated, by the way. So I had ChatGPT kind of help me put this together. I really didn't write this, but in the previous video, you'll see kind of my thought process for how I was able to get ChatGPT to build something out like this. And then ChatGPT even like took care of some of my integrations. It knows I need to integrate with OpenAI API, and I might need 2 endpoints. Um, I actually believe that we will need this post evaluate endpoint, which is going to submit that potentially audio file to an API that's going to be processed and returned back to the front end. But I actually don't believe we need this get. This get, I know why ChatGPT is suggesting this. It thinks that I'm doing a model view controller architecture, meaning that I'm like separating my database from the front end. But as y'all know, like FlutterFlow and Firebase are closely linked to each other. And so, excuse me, they're like coupled, right? Because you integrate Firebase and FlutterFlow in the same app. So it thinks that I'm going to need to hit an API to get the data, but we should all know here that that's not how FlutterFlow works. FlutterFlow can just read the data. Um, One thing I want to mention, or one thing I'd actually love to poll you guys all, and let me see if I can actually spin up a poll. This would be really fun to see. Doesn't look like I can, but maybe I can just ask in the chat. Should I use Supabase or should I use Firebase? What do y'all want to learn? I will use the database that you guys want to learn. So drop that in the chat, Supabase or Firebase. And I need to know now because that's going to dictate how I proceed today in Lesson Lab. So whatever y'all tell me, I'll do that. Firebase or Supabase. Everybody go in the chat. Tell me Firebase or Supabase. I'm not going to proceed until I see there's 30 of y'all. I want to see 20 people contribute because I want y'all to speak here. We already have a lot of content on Firebase. There might be some people out there who want to learn Supabase. So yeah, I need to know now because we're doing the database design. I see Firebase, Supabase, Firebase, Firebase, Supabase, Firebase, 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 Supabase, Firebase. Okay. Well, we got to count. Okay. 1, 2. All right. Everybody just keep posting Firebase or Supabase. That way I can count once everybody's done. But I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 9 for Firebase. And then I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on Supabase. Okay. And Anthony just hit me with Firebase. So, democracy. Firebase it is. I was actually hoping for Supabase, but it's all good. If we'll go with what the people want. Maybe I'll do it twice. Who knows? However, like at the end of the day, Firebase and FlutterFlow are always going to be more tightly married than Supabase and FlutterFlow. So let's stick to that. That sounds really good. So thank you. We're going to go with Firebase. So some things do fundamentally change if you use Erasure.io to try to plan your database. Is this database design that you see right here is called an entity relationship diagram. Doug, I'll definitely try to do twice. We'll see how it goes if I'm able to have the bandwidth, or maybe I can have one of the coaches support me in like mirroring a Supabase implementation. I'll keep you guys posted with what we do there. But so what you see here on the screen is an entity relationship diagram. Entity relationship diagrams are taught in computer science schools and in just traditional software engineering. This dates back to who knows, probably before I was born. I was born in 97, and ER diagrams are OG when it comes to database design. And we might even have some data guys in here or girls who come from that era of software dev. But essentially what this is it's a model or it's a diagram that illustrates how your data will be represented or stored in the database. Okay. And it utilizes two things specifically. One are these boxes or kind of entities. And an entity in the English language, entity definition is essentially like a being existence or a separate contained existence, right? Like an individual is an entity, a business can be an entity, like your, I don't know, your school is an entity, right? Like anything that's a being or something that has existence is an entity. So in the world of data, an entity is like an existence of a piece of data, one specific type of data. So each of these big boxes you see here are entities. The first entity we have is a user, and this represents what a user will look like when it's stored in the database, right? So a user has a definition, right? It has an ID. Every user has an ID. A user will have a username, an email, a profile picture, potentially a street count. And we have the data types here on the right-hand side. I'm going to assume over the course of all this that y'all know the basics of data, and you've been through some of the basic content inside of Dreams and Apps, and you kind of know this common terminology. Okay. So we have all these properties, and we also have something called challenge submissions, where we know that users will have many challenge submissions. However, before I just kind of jump into this, I want to show you how I actually built this out. So um, this is why I like Erasure.io. You can literally just load in your product requirements document here and then hit generate AI diagram. And you could literally just paste in all of the, all this entire document. You could just hit generate AI diagram and you could say, oops, you could say, design me a database, a Firebase database for my AI Flutter app. Here is the product requirements document. And I did this in the other video that y'all will see, and that's why it was done already. But essentially, you can just pop in your whole product requirements diagram here and hit go, and this should like take a really good attempt at designing your database. So you can see it's kind of working right here. Right now, our coaching team is actually hand designing all of y'all's databases, but we are shifting toward a more AI-driven approach over the next couple of weeks. And this is something that we are going to be integrating inside the platform. So as you can see, it kind of works, right? So cool. So you can see here that it's generated with AI, and that's pretty cool. So let me get rid of this. I don't even know how. There we go. So you can see here that it designed my database, and I think it's different than the one we had before. Let me paste that one that I had on the screen. Actually, I don't have it anymore, but that's all right. So I have users, and users have many submissions. And the way we know that is, so we have users. Users will have username, email, profile picture, street count, and an ID. That's fine. And then users map to submissions. And one user can have many submissions. And the way that we know that is by these stars right here. In the world of ER diagrams, these are called cardinalities, which represent the relationship between objects. So one user, so if I have Doug, Doug submits 10 times, Doug can have 10 submissions that tie back to his user. If I have Anthony, Anthony can have one user has 10 submissions hooked up to his name. However, you can't have 10 Anthonys because Anthony can only be one person. So there's only one. So you can denote kind of the relationships using these stars. So so actually this is indicating that essentially what this means right here is if you have a star next to the entity, that means that this means many. So essentially what this is saying is this says many users can have many submissions, which I actually feel like is incorrect, but I might be wrong. I believe it should be one user can have many submissions. But what I can do to see why that's the case is I can actually click on the code and I can see here that we have users and submissions. And it looks like a submission can map to a user ID. And then if we go here, we can see the relationships. We have users.id mapped to submissions.user ID. So this is saying that like we are linking the two entities based on what's called a foreign key. So a foreign key is a key that exists on a database object, that relates to another one. In Firebase, it's called document reference, which is why I said earlier in the video that there's going to be some differences when you try to use an ER diagram with a Firebase database. ER diagrams were not designed to work with Firebase. There's a whole different kind of JSON structure that you would want to think about. However, I still think it's really important for y'all to think about in terms of an ER diagram. And I'm sure over time it will evolve to work with like a JSON type of data store. But if you can understand ER diagrams and how to model data with ER, you can easily map that to JSON. But I can't say the same for the other way around. You can't design a database using JSON and then map that back to ER. You can go from ER to Firebase and JSON. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So cool. So we have the relationships here at the bottom. What you see here in Erasure.io, this is their own kind of syntax, and syntax just means language. If we click right here at the bottom left, we see syntax help, and this actually tells us this actually tells us what denotes what. So if we have users and then we have two of these brackets, we can actually figure out what that means here. So it says two brackets means many to many. Okay. So that means many users will have many submissions, and I can figure out if that is 100% accurate. But to me, it still seems like it should be one user should have many submissions. We can come back to that though. Cool. So let's look at the rest of the database. So users can map to submissions because users will be the ones submitting things, but then submissions are actually submissions based on challenges, right? Because as an admin, I'm going to put up a challenge. So I'm going to say, today's challenge is sell me this pen. Okay. And I'll add one of these challenge objects right here. It'll have an ID of 1. The description will be, today's challenge is sell me this pen. Please submit a 30-second, please send me a 30-second voice response of you trying to sell me a pen. That's the challenge. Okay. A user is going to see that challenge on the homepage, and they're going to then submit a response to that challenge, right? So when they submit that response to the challenge, we're not going to be submitting a new challenge. We're going to be submitting a submission. We're going to be saving a submission to the database, but that submission maps to the challenge, because if I have one challenge on the platform and then I have, Antonio and Akash and Alessandra and Amate and Chirag, all these people submitting a challenge, Chirag, Akash, all these people are going to have their own submission objects, and they're going to map to each user. So potentially we could have like 6 submissions in the database, and each submission is going to map to a user. I'm just trying to drive that point home. Okay. So now that we're there, and keep in mind, like, this database design is very basic. We're definitely going to be modifying this. I'm just trying to drive some points home. Cool. So then when a submission is sent, say I try to sell the pen. Hey, this pen will help you close $1 million deals. Okay, we're going to send that to the AI. The AI is going to do its magic, and then it's probably going to give us some feedback, right? So what we're going to do is take that feedback from the AI and then store another piece of data in the database that says, hey, database, store this feedback for submission ID 1, which belongs potentially to like Akash, and save these comments in that feedback object. So now Akash on his history page of his app can go to the feedback tab, and he can see all the feedbacks that have his submission, have all the submissions that belong to his user ID. Okay. So notice how we're kind of splitting up these objects, but they still relate to each other. So let's look at this relationship. That means many submissions can have one piece of feedback. So that kind of makes sense, right? Like, if we're submitting a response to sell me this pen, we're only going to make one API call. That API call is only going to give us one piece of feedback, and it's going to save that one piece of feedback to the database. It's not going to do it more than once. So that means that for every submission, we're only going to have one piece of feedback. So that makes a lot of sense. And I can get with that, because that means there's a 1-to-1 relationship to a feedback and a submission. So that's kind of my summary of this database design. We're definitely going to need to add some fields here, but I don't want to get too hung up on the database. I think we're going to come back to it. and I want to start moving into what our app is going to look like. So I'm gonna move over to Figma and we can kind of start sketching this out. Okay, cool. So instead of Figma, we're going to actually leverage some AI, because that's what this is all about, right? We didn't come here to do stuff the hard way. All right, magic patterns. So for those of you who are aware, Magic Patterns is a AI tool that we've integrated with. You can actually access Magic Patterns directly through Discord. Hit me in Discord if you have any questions about how to use it. But we have a field, or excuse me, a channel called AI Magic Patterns. So Magic Patterns allows us to generate wireframes based on an idea. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take my PRD, my project requirements. I'm gonna copy it all. Then I'm gonna head to Magic Patterns and I'm just gonna paste it here and see what happens. I have no idea what's about to happen. We're just gonna say um, Chakra UI. Chakra UI is a UI kit. Shad CN is also a UI kit. Um, we are working with Magic Patterns to implement like a FlutterFlow UI kit, which will make that really, really easy for y'all to go from Figma to FlutterFlow. Not quite there yet. So I'm going to choose Chakra UI and hit generate here. We'll see how this works. So I've probably only been working on this idea, just so everybody knows, for an hour. Like total hands to keyboard time, 1 hour. And I've already made a ton of progress in that I have my product requirements, my database design, and I'm about to have this. I'm hopefully targeting like in less than 15 hours, I want to have um my app in the store generating $1 at least. So let's see if we can get there. All right. So it does look like this worked just based off my PRD. So that's pretty damn cool. I got my streak, I got my daily challenge, I got a history, I got a profile. I'll take it. I will take it. So now I'm going to export this to Figma. Okay, so when I hit export to Figma, I need to copy this layer ID. So I'll open up Figma, new design file. I'm gonna call this design file Closer Academy UI Design, UI UX. Okay, and then I'm going to find my plugins. I have Magic Patterns somewhere, or maybe not. Maybe that's on my desktop. Cool. Run layer ID. Oops. So all I got to do is copy this layer ID, paste it here in Figma, hit import. Sweet. So it got kind of a basic version of that. Okay. So it looks like I need to keep doing it for all of them. Okay. So export to Figma. Or maybe not. Let me retry. So here, I want this daily challenge. So I'll hit export to Figma. Import. Gorgeous. So that's there. So I need to add a fill to this. So I got the white fill. That's fine. Okay. So these are actually like iterations or versions of it. I like this one because it's got the icons, but I'm not really too picky about that right now. And then we have these, which is fine. Okay, cool. So let's just jump into Figma here and just kind of design this out a little bit more pretty. So I'm going to kind of widen this and change the top to say Closer Academy, bold it, I'll center align. And the purpose of this is not for me to like teach you Figma or anything. The purpose is to build an app and kind of show you my process. So I'm not really going to take things very slow when it comes to actually building this out. I will stop to talk through like strategy, but I'm not going to assume that you don't know Figma. We're going to assume that you do. So essentially, this is the homepage of the app. So let's kind of stretch this out to be a home, more of a, let's actually create a new frame. I'm kind of not liking how this one is rolling out. So we're going to create one for iPhone 14 Plus. And essentially what we'll do is we're going to copy over the design that Magic Pattern generated for us. And we are going to create our own screen. So my goal for the next, say, 20 minutes till 6 p.m. PST is to have the screens completely laid out. And then in the next video that I will film tomorrow, I'll actually like implement these screens in FlutterFlow. So here's what I'm going to do. I always love selling like aspirations when it comes to apps. Like I've been coaching Anthony and Nick and some of our other builders on like copywriting and how to sell like big goals because at the end of the day, it's marketing. So I'm going to say close more deals at the top. We'll say Closer Academy. And here I'll say close more deals. I'll make this smaller. No, let's keep it that way for now. Closer Academy. And we all know that like in the app world, you don't really have tabs up here. You have tabs at the bottom. So I will kind of sketch out some tabs here. Okay. Actually, give me a second. I have a different idea. Yeah, I like this idea better. So I'm going to use the AI Assistant app that we already have in Dreams into Apps, and we're just going to use that as our um, starting point. I think that's going to make a lot more sense. So we have the AI Assistant UI kit here, and I'm going to copy this actually. So we'll say duplicate. What I'll do is I'll bring in some of these screens into the main project. Cool. So I have this project, which is where I've kind of started my wireframes, and I brought in the wireframes from Magic Patterns. I'm actually just going to take a screenshot of this just so I can have it here. I like kind of, I know it sounds weird, but I kind of like cluttering my um, Figma workspace with like inspiration. So it kind of keeps me moving. So now what I will do is I will go find a home screen here in my AI assistant, and I'll kind of start building it out like this. Beautiful. So cool. Main screen. I'll get rid of this guy and we'll center align this and say Closer Academy. Here's what we'll do. We'll say complete your daily challenge. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. I don't think all this needs to be here. Beautiful. And then what we'll do is this UI that Magic Patterns gave us has daily challenge here, history here, and profile here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this bottom to daily challenge. This one's going to be, I think it said history, but we'll call it, yeah, we'll call it history. That's fine. And then here we'll call this profile. Okay. We'll want to find a new icon for daily challenge. We'll do that in a little bit. Or actually we can kind of just do it now where I can tap on this button here, hit icons. And we can type, say, lightning. Actually, no. Icons 8. This is a Figma plugin that I have. It's called Icons 8. And we can just type the word like lightning in here and essentially just drag a lightning bolt onto the page. And we can just replace, let's replace this. Click this, right click, go to main component. And this is the main component. Okay, it's here. Okay, so it's actually angry. It's not angry. It's that it wants me to do everything out of one file. So actually, I'm going to get rid of this project. Sometimes that can be a little bit. Um, so now that I'm in the same file, I can right click, go to main component, and I can swap this out. Actually not happy because, oops, I actually didn't grab the right thing. So right click, plugins, icon 8, lightning. Beautiful. So I got this lightning bolt here. I'm going to change the fill color. Oops, I actually have to do that in advance. Icons, lightning. And I'll set this to ideally the same purple. Custom. So I need to copy this button or this color first. What is this color? Ooh, there we go. Awesome. So now I got this lightning. There we go. All right, so I changed the lightning icon here, make it a little bit bigger. And now if I go back to my UI kit, the lightning should be changed. So we're using a design system that's built into Figma. So we kind of have to use their rules. So now I have complete your daily challenge. We have the history tab, we have the profile tab. And the next thing I want to do is kind of build out the UI for this daily challenge. So here's what I'll do. I will go back to the rest of my mobile app. And I'm going to find kind of a UI that makes the most sense. And Sandro is actually developing a design system for all the builders because we're finding that a lot of you are struggling with like copying over your Figma kits. So we're actually building out a design system that's going to have a Figma UI file and a FlutterFlow kit that you guys can just like drag and drop and kind of use to go faster rather than having to like try to design the whole UI. So the one that I'm thinking is probably going to be like a card like this. So I'm going to copy this card, head over to Closer Academy, and drop this card on the page like this. Okay. And then I'll make this card bigger. And I'll say today's challenge. We'll say today is Wednesday, May 22nd. And I will align everything using auto layout this way. I'll get rid of this guy. And let's head over to our good old friend ChatGPT. And what we'll do is I actually already have my thread here for when I was building out my PRD. And I'll say brainstorm 5 challenges for training a sales rep. Yeah. Each challenge should be no more than 2 sentences. So it says handling objections. Role play a scenario where potential customers hesitant about the price, convince them the value your product offers. I think that's a little too vague. Rewrite the challenges using a real world scenario. Okay. Perhaps you can include, it'd be cool, right? If we had like the product name, the customer they are selling to, the price of the product, maybe, and like a role play scenario, like an objection or yeah, let's say objection. Scenario, you're selling Pro X fitness tracker to John, a fitness enthusiast. The tracker costs $150. Objection, John is concerned about the price, saying, why should I pay $150 when there are cheaper options available? Okay, the second one, challenge number two, building rapport. You're introducing the Eco Clean home cleaning kit to Lisa, a mother of two young children. The kit costs $50. Objective, connect with Lisa by discussing the challenges of maintaining a clean home with kids and how the Eco Clean kit can help. Okay, these are pretty cool. Okay, okay, okay. You are trying to sell the Aqua Pure water filter to Maria, a health-conscious individual. The filter costs 120. Maria is interested but hesitant. Emphasize the health benefits and limited time discount to encourage her to make a purchase today. That's pretty cool. So I'm pretty happy with these, right? And I think now I got some like inspiration for like how I would want the front end to look, or how I want the front end to kind of read. Again, like I'm not here trying to advocate for you to like let ChatGPT come up with your, feature scope, but I hope you can kind of see my thought process when it comes to, refining the ChatGPT response. I also have been thinking about this idea for a long time, so I know kind of where I want to take this. And obviously I'm teaching y'all at the same time too, so I kind of know what my next step is going to be. I actually had it written down here as well on a notepad. So if it's coming natural to me, it's because I've already planned this, and you shouldn't be like discouraged if these things don't come as natural to you. It's okay. Things take time to iterate. I've been planning this for a long time. You should be planning your app as well and thinking about your target customer. I have been thinking about this target customer for a while. So just want to say that as a sentence of encouragement to all of you, as you're going through this with me and you're like, how the hell is he doing this so quickly? I am way behind. That's totally fine. And that's why we're here. Okay. So cool. Now let's figure out, okay, I wake up one day and I open Closer Academy and I want to do one of these challenges. How do we map this scenario in a really fun way on the UI? Like that's what we're excited about. So today's challenge, Wednesday, May 22nd, I might even get rid of that and I'll move, you know, actually, I'll just get rid of it completely. Today's challenge. Okay, so let's come up with something here. We'll say scenario, say product. Okay. You are selling the Pro X fitness tracker, and we can say something like value position, proposition. Um, let's say include value prop. Let's say those are good challenges. Now include a bullet on the value prop for each product. Example, what does Pro X fitness tracker do? Okay, value proposition. The Pro X fitness tracker offers heart rate monitoring, GPS tracking, blah, blah, blah. That's cool. Love it. That's exactly what I was looking for. So boom, now we have the value prop. This is starting to like not really sit nicely on the page, but we're going to solve that later. Cool. We got the value prop, we got the product, and now we're going to say John's. You are selling to John, a fitness enthusiast, a say 41-year-old fitness enthusiast. Okay. And then let's come up with this objection, right? So the objection that John might have, we can put potentially in a different colored box, is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking what we do is we go back to our mobile app and we find potentially a different colored box. We have kind of this guy. That's a component. So let's copy that. We'll head back here and we'll paste this box. That does not like me. It's probably because it is a auto laid out component. So we'll say detach instance. And Cool. Now that's starting to sit. And what we'll do is we'll get rid of this. We'll change the stroke color. And we'll say something like, say that it's like orange or something, because orange is kind of a warning sign. And we want this to kind of give that feeling to the user, like, oh my gosh, I have to do something. So we'll say objection. And let's see if we can move this up. So say objection. Add an emoji like that or something. Objection. This price is too high. I don't want to lose weight or something like that. Okay. And for now, this can be text-based, but I'm also thinking there's a world where this is all like an AI avatar, right? Like that could be really cool. But for now, I just want to optimize toward getting this like working and just even seeing if I can build like a really basic version of it. And I'll set this text color to something like not red, because red signifies error. I think it's like objection. Why should I pay 150 when there are cheaper options available? Okay. This seems okay to me for right now. I'm not too concerned. And then potentially what we do is if we want to use voice, which we are going to use voice, we need a way to record the answer, right? So I'm thinking, because yeah, we don't want to type this out. I would, I'd either want to send voice or I would probably want to send like a selfie video. But I think voice is probably the best way to go right now. Otherwise, we'd have to process the video, which could be a little. I'm not too worried about the time. I'm mostly worried about like the weight of the video and having to deal with such a large file. So let's go with voice. Let's go with voice. I think some of y'all are even using voice in your products. So what I'll do is I'm gonna find kind of an audio player like this. No, I actually don't think there's a voice button. So I'll copy this. And what I'll do is I'll say, make this smaller. Ooh. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to lay this out, but I'm going to think of it something like this. And what I'll do is I'll copy this color and I'm going to go back to icons 8 and say voice, voice recognition. It's a good icon. Pop that in here. And I'll say something like tap to record your answer. So many of y'all have also asked me like in the past, like, do I need a product tour? Do I need a tutorial? How do I teach a new user how to use my app? And something I learned at PrizePicks is that if your app needs a product tour, it's likely because you didn't design your app correctly. Product tours used to be really popular back when iPhones and iPod touches first came out because no one knew how to use apps. But now everybody knows how to use an app. Like even our grandmothers, grandfathers like know how to use basic smartphones. Uh, I don't know about you, but like my grandmother like is in like a senior citizen like smartphone usage class and they teach her how to use basic apps. And so my point is that the market is very sophisticated and like most people know how to navigate basic apps. And so you need to design your application to be so simple that it can be figured out without needing a product tour. So when you see me design this type of app, like I'm designing it to be dummy proof. Like I'm literally going to launch this app to say, complete your daily challenge. Like app users are not as like, I would say, assumptive, if that's a word. Like they don't assume the same things that you do, and they won't. You have to straight tell them and handhold them all the way through. So notice when I come up with this type of copy, when I'm writing things, I'm literally saying, literally like complete your daily challenge, tap to record your answer, right? Because I need to tell my user exactly what to do. Okay. So now, as a sales rep, if I open this app, I see that it says, hey, I need to complete my daily challenge. And if I'm a sales rep, I know these words. I know what value proposition means. If I said the word ICP, I know that a sales rep will know what that means. And you have to have that, bear that in mind too. You are not building your app for everyone. You're building your app for a niche. And your niche, you should know so well that they will resonate with the language, the messaging in your app. Um, and so, um, I'm going to use a word like ICP. Say an 8-year-old comes to my app and they want to be a sales rep, but they don't know what the word ICP means. This app is likely not for them. This app is going to be for that person who knows what ICP is, what they know what a value proposition is, because sales reps and aspiring sales reps who are going to school or who are being trained to be sales reps are familiar with these terms. Okay. So think about that as you're building your app too. Like the language and the messaging you use in your app will kind of on its own filter out the people who are going to be using it. Okay. Awesome. So we're at the top of the hour. I retained most of y'all, which I'm excited about. I hope you guys learned something. I'm going to stop the lesson there and I'm going to pick this up on another video that will end up getting rolled out on YouTube.